our next two speakers. We're doing a tag team presentation. First, we have Gosia. Gosia is a product designer with over 10 years of experience working on a wide range of offerings, from large-scale informational websites, a social media iOS app, enterprise solution for financial institutions, and even a blockchain trading platform. It's quite impressive. She is now paving the way for a new class of medicine called digital therapeutics as lead product designer at Click Therapeutics. She is joined by her colleague Liz Germana. She is a licensed clinical social worker and patient support manager for Click Therapeutics under the Department of Medical Affairs. She's been with Click for 5 years, providing direct support to our members with smoking cessation application called Clickatine, and she's supported a lot of patient engagement initiatives across all of our products. She possesses over 10 years of experience as a clinical social worker and has provided therapeutic services in a variety of settings in the home, hospital, and community. And currently she's advancing augmented intelligence in patient communications by combining AI, machine learning, and human intelligence into our Click platform. So without further ado, Gosia, Liz, the stage is yours.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Shaheen, for that introduction. As Shaheen mentioned, I'm Liz Germana. I'm a clinical social worker and the patient support manager for Click Therapeutics. And I'm going to get us started on our presentation involving patients in the design process, embracing a co-design development process. And you'll be hearing from Gosia, our lead designer, in a bit. And she is amazing, so you should be excited. I have the pleasure to work with her and have known her for a few years now. And she makes everything beautiful, but she thinks like a social worker. So it's wonderful to work with her. But I'm just going to jump right in. So you may know who we are. You may not. So just a brief slide on who we are. We're Click Therapeutics. We're a regulated software as medical device focused company that develops our applications in medical treatments in accordance with all relevant FDA, ISO, and ISC standards. And we target drug endpoints with apps. So we develop, validate, register, and commercialize. And what is a digital therapeutic? We're unlike health and wellness applications because we're evaluated for clinical efficacy and safety. And we're tested to ensure software quality and usability. We're maintained in a quality management system for traceability and auditing, and we're subject to regulatory review and approval. So as you see from this diagram, we have all the mobile apps and then a smaller subset of health and wellness apps, and then an even smaller subset of digital therapeutics because it's not easy to be a digital therapeutic. But as we see, the field is definitely growing. So now we can go to the next slide. So the importance of co-design at Click Therapeutics. Patients first is at the heart of everything we do. I got this image directly from our website. So we want everyone to know that patients first is one of our core values at Click. If you're trying to read the other values, they're act with integrity, expect excellence, no jerks, own it, and make work fun. So some of them are lighthearted, but we really want people to know how serious we take patients first. It's the guiding principle for all individual employees, teams, and products. And we regularly remind colleagues to operate in the Click way, but everyone is hyper-focused on patients anyway, so it makes it a really nice place to work with people who are always putting patients at the center. So we hire passionate and diverse cross-functional team members, human social workers, to drive a patients-first agenda. So when I started at Click over 5 years ago, it was a handful of engineers and a social worker. So I thought this was the craziest thing. It was such an interesting job interview, and I've done nothing like this before. But it just shows that Click has always been hyper-focused on patients first from even the very beginning. And I thought, how am I going to take my direct practice experience and put it in a digital world? So it was a little bit intimidating, but now that I've been with Click for a while, I've been able to really hone in on some of my past experience and bring it into this digital space. So the next slide. So the most important element of building a digital therapeutic is putting people with lived experiences in the front. So the central role of people with lived experience is one of the most important elements. And Gosia is going to talk a bit more about how we incorporate members throughout the design process. But it's best to practice with the partner, with the end user at every single stage. So pre-development, during development, and post-development. And it's an iterative process that we're proactively seeking patient input during each stage, including the final stage. But we know no product is ever at the final stage because we're always trying to deliver the best outcomes and make sure we're staying personalized with each member's needs. So next slide. I wanted to talk about what exactly is a social worker before I talk about social workers at CLIC and social workers in a traditional real world setting. But what is a social worker exactly? The National Association of Social Workers, NASW, describes social work as a profession devoted to helping people function the best they can in their environment. Social workers promote social justice and social change. It's a lot of social words, with and on behalf of clients. So NASW has established a code of ethics that's intended to serve as a guide to the everyday professional conduct of social workers and outlines ethical responsibilities. I didn't include them all, but two that I thought were very important were a primary responsibility to promote the well-being of clients, and a duty to respect and promote the right of clients to self-determination and assist clients in their efforts to identify and clarify their goals. So as you see, I'm kind of using the words clients and members and users interchangeably, but I get that you know what I'm talking about. So we're going to circle back to social workers at CLIC in a bit. Actually, no, we're going to talk about social workers at CLIC right now. Sorry. So anyway, as I mentioned, I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I'm the patient support manager. I support patient engagement initiatives, but I mainly want to talk about my role as a care guide at Clickateen. So as a care guide at Clickateen, I'm providing support that's adjunctive to therapy provided by CLIC's digital therapeutics through two-way text messaging. Care guides provide support, psychoeducations, reminders, follow-up, and accountability towards utilizing the app. We provide insight to other team members on member feedback because we are the front lines. We're going to hear about things first. And then we advocate on behalf of our members' needs with other team members. So I'm going to come back to social workers at CLIC, but I wanted to talk about social workers in the traditional sense. So traditional roles, my previous work experience includes working with individuals or families diagnosed with a mental or behavioral health condition in the home, school, and community and hospital settings. So some of these experiences with patients where people had depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, bipolar, personality disorders, drug and alcohol, ADHD, and autism spectrum disorder. So this is a wide range of conditions in a lot of settings. So what does all of this have in common? And next slide, all of this has in common is that each individual receiving treatment was an equal collaborator in developing their treatment plan. So a treatment plan is just, it's created in the initial phase of treatment to gather background information, define problem areas, and develop goals to address those problem areas. And patients are expected to actively participate in the entire process and work with a therapist to establish goals, plus determine actionable steps to meet those goals. Patients and therapists revisit the treatment plan frequently and assess progress and make adjustments as needed. So social workers are always engaging in co-design. We just never call it that in the field of social work, but that's essentially what it is. We are designing the treatment, and the members are an active equal collaborator, and we really do view our members as experts because a lot of times they really do have the tools and skills that they need to accomplish their goal, and they just need a little bit of support reaching that. So we're going to circle back to how social workers contribute to co-design at CLIC. So as I said before, how do I take my previous direct practice experience into the digital world? So some key takeaways were from my previous roles were to find a way to personalize as much as possible. So listening to lived experiences of members and conveying empathy. asking open-ended questions to gain better understanding, and treating members as equal collaborators. So personalizing, we're agreeing with members that it's hard. I hear all the time from members, this is so hard. And instead of me saying, oh, no, it's not, it's easy, or you got this, we're saying it is really hard. Behavior change is hard. Breaking habits are extremely hard. So we're down there in the trenches with them, and we're agreeing that this is not something easy that we're asking you to do. So we're also making sure that a member feels seen and heard, because you can be a little bit disconnected from human interaction, obviously, when you're using an app. So we want to make members feel that they are seen and heard. So we reply to all of our members, and we proactively reach out to our members. Today, I was talking with a member who credited the app and NRT for quitting. And she said she couldn't do it without the app or NRT. And I told her that this is her putting the muscle into it. It's not the app, it's not the NRT. Those are tools for her, but it's really her putting it in and the work. And she said that comment really meant a lot to her. So it was a really nice conversation that we had this morning. Also, valuing and validating all feedback from members. So this includes positive and negative feedback. We're always encouraging members to leave us feedback, because we really want to know how their experience is and how we can either make it better or continue to do what works. So we share that feedback with appropriate teams, and we regularly discuss with teams ways to incorporate that feedback. So yesterday, a member talked about the smoke feature, and she said she can't input this information at work. You're supposed to record a smoke every time you smoke in the moment, right? That's the idea, that you go to your app and you record the smoke. So that way you can use the app as a way to kind of rewire, because if your brain automatically is craving for a cigarette, we want you to do an action. Instead of reaching for that cigarette, we're trying to get you to rewire that routine. So you're going to the app and doing something, and then the app is going to encourage you to try a strategy. But if you still smoke, you record it, and that way you're staying on track with possibly only having, maybe their plan is to have 10 cigarettes that day. So they're recording in real time. But this member is saying that they can't do that because they're not allowed to use their phone at work. So we talked about something more realistic, possibly at the end of each day, recording the smokes that she had at work, and then continuing to record while she is able to use her phone. So, her feedback was that she wished she could enter a number at the end of the day instead of like pressing record, because you can't just enter a number. So we talked about a solution, but also this is something that I'm going to take back to the product team and talk with them about, and see, this was some feedback that I thought was really good feedback for us to know and figure out what we can do for members that aren't necessarily able to use their phone while they're at work. So we also want to assess, as social workers, care guides, any barriers members face to reaching their goal. So how can we tackle these barriers together? And we're asking members for times they were able to overcome similar obstacles. Yesterday, I also talked with a mother who was really struggling after meals. She said that was, her time to smoke. She prepared the meal, she ate, and she always had a cigarette after meals. So we discussed how this is a really hard habit to change, but possibly their new routine could be going for a 10-minute walk after mealtime as a family. And it would be a great way to start a new routine. And she was very receptive to that, because she said she's been wanting to add extra steps to her day. So really kind of tackling a barrier together, and, overcoming some obstacles. Also yesterday, I talked with a member who said that she has 2 grandsons on the way, and she was able to successfully quit in the past by doing crocheting and canning vegetables. And I thought those were like the coolest activities to really channel your energy into, especially as you're trying to stay quit. So we talked about her crocheting 2 blankets for her 2 grandsons on the way. And she's just so excited for them to get here, and she wants to be as healthy as possible for them. And she also thought, crocheting could help her again, since it helped her in the past. So again, members possess a lot of the skills that they need to overcome the obstacles, but really supporting with them to find the solutions. And we advocate as social workers on behalf of our members to build inclusive products. So what accessibility features can be incorporated? How can we make sure that everybody with every ability can use our application? And how can we make sure we're not leaving people behind? People that might have varying tech abilities or people that may not have access. We're always trying to come up with ways that we make sure we build an inclusive product because, my fear is always that technology moves quick and we don't want to leave people behind that, could be included in these solutions. So I want to wrap things up to give Gosia enough time, but thank you, everybody, for being here, and I will turn it over to Gosia.
Thank you, Liz. So as Shaheen mentioned, my name is Gosia and I'm a lead product designer at Click Therapeutics. And I have to tell you that this is like the most fulfilling job that I have ever had in my life. So I'm like thrilled to be here on the stage with Liz, who is also my favorite person because she's been walking empathy for smokers and quitters, like before we could even tap into talking with them in the amounts that we do right now. Liz already mentioned that patient-centric approach is part of a deeply ingrained culture at Click. And I would like to share some highlights about why and how we try to involve patients in the design process. So let's start with why. Why is it important for product and design at Click to involve patients in the product design process? First and foremost, the insights or the data which we gather when we interact with patients help us make optimal design decisions. Product designers, no matter how self-aware, come to work with their own assumptions, opinions, and biases. And there is no better way to keep them in check than a patient data. There is also no better way to form empathy in a product team than by talking, watching, or listening to patients. Validating and testing every decision we make is impossible. So having a team member who is able to channel this empathy during meetings or discussions is invaluable. I think from Liz's talk, you can imagine that she is very much a walking empathy for a patient segment which she cares about. By keeping patients' needs front and center, we can also prevent a situation when product decisions are made by the loudest or the most influential voice in the room. And the cartoon here is a good example of how a small, homogeneous, complacent group of men can make a decision which ultimately could have adverse impact on people's lives. How do we involve patients in the design process at Click? As Liz already mentioned, at Click, we try to involve patients in every phase of product development. We start with discovery, or as it's called here, the phase of understanding. Where we try to learn about the attributes of a target patients, their needs and desires. When we have a clarity on who we're designing the product for, we try to recruit people with similar attributes to a patient panel. And this panel makes it very easy to involve patients in the design process as frequently as we need. Every week, we interact with patients on different product-related panels. We speak to them, get their thoughts on early concepts, watch them go through prototypes, run a card sort activity to see how they would organize psychoeducation topics. We have had great experience involving patients in testing content of SMS messaging, audio and video content, as well as overall tone and voice of a digital therapeutic. Since patient panels have been such a game changer in how much more user research we're able to do at Click, I would like to share a few tips on how to form a patient panel and what to watch out for in the recruiting process. So first, we send out a short survey. From the answers we get, we select a few candidates and run a spoken screener. When a candidate is approved, we invite them to a panel where they receive invites to different paid research opportunities. The recruiting survey should be short, no more than 4 to 5 questions. You can post it on Craigslist or advertise on social media. It's important to look for patients who are aware of their problems and actively looking for a solution or a change of a solution. Your product has a potential to fulfill their unmet need. If they're excited about what you're building, they might become super fans or willing co-creators of your product. They will give generous feedback and care for you to materialize the product, not because they're paid participants, but because what you're building is something that they've been looking for and couldn't find. And you should try to write questions so that you can find those type of participants. As one more tip I would like to add is that you should try to include a couple of open-ended questions in the survey to give a candidate an opportunity to share their experience and thinking. How much a participant is sharing in these open-ended questions is usually a clue about how generous they would be in giving feedback during live co-design session. And this brings me to the next step, the spoken screener. It should be a short phone call, no more than 10-15 minutes long, so the participant doesn't feel like they're being taken advantage of. All you want to check for is, do they match your target patient profile? Are they willing to converse? Are they comfortable beginning the process of developing trust and rapport with you? Are they able to go to depth? Can they speak about their thinking at a certain time and place? Or they're just gliding on the surface, sharing generalities? And the last one, can you understand what they're saying? If you get all these check marks, then you found a great candidate to your patient panel. Invite them to paid interview next and to other research opportunities afterwards. I would like to leave you with this piece of wisdom. This is my last slide. Nothing beats testing ideas with patients. When I started working at Click, we didn't have access to patient panels. I considered testing ideas with humans better than not testing at all. So I invited every new Click employee to test prototypes and ideas, and I got pretty good insights. But it wasn't until I shared my designs with a target patient population that I had my designer aha moment, when I was humbled and gained clarity, which I wouldn't have gotten otherwise. I just wanted to include this plug. We're looking for designers and other members in our product teams. So please check us out, connect with us. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your insightful presentation. We do have one question from Miss Jen Moore, I believe from Boston Scientific. She asked, would you describe your product as a nicotine replacement device? And I think, Liz, if you want to go ahead.
Sure. Sorry, I didn't know if I should respond to that or if you would be reading the question, but I did respond by saying we would not describe our product as nicotine replacement device. We provide behavioral support with the app, and many people are able to quit with just using our app, and many people in our app also use NRT. So NRT would be another tool to help them quit. And we know that from the research that people often need a behavioral support plan plus NRT to have an effective quit. So we can provide the behavioral support, but we also have plenty of people that use NRT, and it really helps them get to where they need to go.
Any other questions or comments from the audience? Again, a very great presentation, and what you guys are doing is quite revolutionary, especially for those that are struggling with certain addictions. So, Dr. Shaheen, if you have any remarks, feel free.
Oh, I would just echo those comments. It was a fantastic presentation, and in fact, flowed very well from that experiential environment to co-design to our next topic on precision medicine. So much appreciated, Gosia and Liz. Truly for incorporating the patients with lived experience voice, all the way from conception to development to iterative development, right? And the way that we approach them in our communications channels and our products. So really, really important call out. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you, everyone.